Good morning, everyone. My name is Michael Hurt, and I am the webinar moderator for today. Before we get started with the meeting proper, I have a bit of housekeeping to read. This public meeting is being broadcast as a webinar and is being recorded. If you can hear me but cannot see the visual presentation on your screen, you may access it by visiting gotowebinar.com and then typing in the webinar ID and your email address. The webinar ID for today is 558-086-523. To repeat that, 558-086-523. Once you're in the webinar, you'll need to select the button that describes how you will listen using your computer audio or phone call. Please select computer audio only if you have a headset. If you select phone call as your audio option, you'll need to dial the telephone number that's provided and then enter the access code and audio PIN. You must enter this audio PIN into your telephone if you wish to speak during the session. If you do not enter this audio PIN, I will not be able to take you out of listen-only mode and you will not be heard. Please note that you will be in listen-only mode unless you are a staff member or on the panel. Until you request to speak, you may raise your hand or type your request to the moderator into the questions panel on the webinar screen. Because we're doing these sort of virtual-only meetings, we ask that when you are speaking during the meeting, please clearly identify yourself so we have a clear record of that in the recording. And that is it. So I will turn this over to Sarah to handle the next part.
Marion, you can go ahead and call the meeting to order and I'll read the roll.
Thank you. This is Marion Almy, the chairman, and I'm going to call the Historical Commission of May 29th, 2020 to order. I note that this is via web only, and it's about 9:35. Sarah, would you call the roll, please?
Marion Almy.
Present.
Judy Bentz.
Present.
John Browning Jr.
Present.
Steve Burtman. Tim Holliday. Rick Gonzalez.
Here.
Vinnie Luisi.
Here.
John Phelps. Heard him earlier. Cliff Smith.
Present.
Kathy Spurgeon.
Here.
Okay, that is a quorum.
Thank you. Do I understand that only Steve and Tim are absent at this time?
I believe so. I didn't hear John, but he was on the phone. Oh,
Earlier,
he
yeah.
just sent me an email and he said that he can't hear anything.
Oh. Okay, well, he's sort of here. All right. Okay, thank you, Sarah. Item 2, the introduction of commissioners, staff, and guests. We'll start with the commissioners, and I will ask Vincent to introduce yourself briefly, and then we'll move to Judy. Are you there, Vincent?
Yes, thank you. Just clicking myself on here. Vincent Luisi, Director of the Dunedin History Museum in Pinellas County. Thank you, and it's nice to be on the panel.
Okay, Judy Bentz.
Yes, this is Judy Bentz. I'm with the University of West Florida in Pensacola, and I'm an archaeologist and have served on the commission, and I'm happy to be here.
Thank you. John Browning.
Yes, I'm John Browning. I'm Vice President of the Goodman Company and the Transportation Commissioner from Palatka, Florida.
Thank you, John. Kathy.
This is Kathy Spurgeon. I'm the founder and president of the Apollo School Foundation in Hobe Sound.
Thank you. Cliff Smith.
Thank you, Marion. Cliff Smith here, chairman of the National Review Board, panel member for the Florida Historic Commission, and senior planner for the city of Sarasota.
All right. Rick Gonzalez.
Yes, good morning, everyone. Rick Gonzalez, President, REG Architects, West Palm Beach, Florida.
Rick, may I ask you to state again what you said yesterday about being on the advisory council?
Yes, thank you. I was appointed by the President to the Advisory Council for Historic Preservation at the national level. And I've already attended my first meeting. It was 85 people from different agencies on a Zoom call, and I was surprised to see how involved people from Department of Defense, Homeland Security, GSA are involved in historic preservation at the national level. So I'm looking forward to this new assignment. And my inductment was going to start in July, but it's been postponed to October so that we can do it hopefully live in Washington, D.C.
Thank you, Rick. And I'm just going to be very selfish here and ask you, when we do have historical commission meetings and you have had an advisory council meeting, if you would indeed tell us a bit about how it works on the federal level. Just file that away for now, but I think it would be excellent for us to learn more from our own member, who is also a member on the federal level. So you have a new assignment. All right, then, John Phelps, are you hearing us yet? I guess not. I understand Steve and Tim are not present. And I'm Marion Almy, chairman, archaeologist from Sarasota, Florida. Is that everyone on the commission?
Marion, I just want to let you know Steve is with us, but he's having a little bit of difficulty speaking. I think he needs to get his audio pin in, and then he'll be able to come across.
Okay, well, maybe when he comes across, to let us know and he can introduce himself. All right, now, Tim, I would turn to you and ask you to introduce the staff, please.
Okay, absolutely. Thank you very much. I will start with Dr. Sarah Lico, who is our divisions program administrator and basically the person who really runs most of the show for us. She's here with us in the RA Gray building. I also have with me Dr. Angela Tomlinson. She's our assistant director, and she, along with Tim Konepke, who I'm not sure if he's joining us on the webinar or not today, they are our grants gurus. And then, of course, I'm in the room. I'm Tim Parsons. I'm the division director of DHR and the State Historic Preservation Officer. I know we also have Mr. Michael Hart on the line. He's our webinar guy extraordinaire, in addition to the numerous other duties that he does for the Bureau of Historic Preservation. And if there are other staff members on the line, please feel free to introduce yourself now.
Hi, this is Alyssa Lotane. I'm a bureau chief for historic preservation and a deputy state historic preservation officer. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. Anyone else on staff?
Suzanne is here. Not sure you can hear me.
Yes. Welcome. After Suzanne, go ahead.
I'm the outreach program supervisor. That's all.
It's plenty. Anyone else from staff, please? All right. I guess I will ask Michael if we have any registered guests online.
As far as I can tell, there are no guests online.
Any other form of public? Oh, go ahead.
Michael, can you tell if Steve has entered his audio pin and if you're able to unmute him?
I was just preparing an email for you. He's not listed among the attendees, so I don't have any ability to unmute him. I'm not sure he's logged into the visual portion of the webinar. He would need to do that.
He has dialed the number and the access code, and he can hear, but he says he can't speak.
Yeah. He has connected via the telephone, but he has not logged into the webinar.
Okay, so he does need to log into
the website.
Okay, so Steve, if you can hear that, you do still need to log into the webinar so that Michael can unmute you.
Okay, while Steve is handling the Twilight Zone, and we have no guests, let us move to item 3, adoption of the agenda. First, I'll ask if there are any changes to the order of the agenda as presented. Hearing no changes, I will ask for a motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
Dr.
This is Kathy Spurgeon, and I move to adopt the agenda.
Kathy has moved to adopt. Cliff, do you want to move to second?
Yes, please. I would second.
Okay, we have a motion and acceptance and a second. All in favor of adopting the agenda, please say aye.
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 Now, for the approval of the minutes, are there any corrections or additions for the February 7th meeting minutes?
This is Kathy Spurgeon, and I make a motion to approve the minutes of the February 7th meeting.
Thank you, Kathy. A second, please.
Second by Vincent Luisi.
Thank you, Vincent. I'm all those in favor of the approval of the minutes, please say aye.
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 Opposed likewise. All right. Steve, have you joined us yet? He's still making his way. All right, then we're going to move to item 5, Chairman's comments. I first want to thank all the division staff for setting up this meeting and handling this. It's like an octopus, I imagine, with many arms. And they did it yesterday for the National Register Review Board, and it was quite successful. It wasn't nearly as much fun as being there for the meeting, but I have to give the staff a great deal of credit. The other thing I wanted to mention is that as we're looking at these hard economic times, reduction in budgets everywhere we are, I just want to remind every commissioner that historic preservation grants and historic preservation in general is statistically proven to be an economic engine. When we give grants, when communities decide to preserve a building at the local level or with our money or someone else's money, it generates lots and lots of hands-on employment. Carpenters, plumbers, electricians, everybody, architects. And so while preservation sometimes I think is thought of as an extra thing, it's not. We in Florida are really integrated into the economics of the state. And if we are called upon to vouch for the validity of our programs, I hope each of you will request, if you don't have, a copy of the report put out, I believe, by the Florida Trust, and the division may have extra copies. And it talks about Florida and the economic engine that preservation is. That's all I wanted to say. That I just wanted to reiterate how valuable our programs are in the economy of Florida. And as we all work together to get back on our feet, I hope we'll be able to do our part. Enough, Chairman Almey. Let's go to the director's comments.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I have a few things to get through today, but I won't take up too much time. I know I always say that, and everybody probably wishes it was me that could not speak instead of Steve, but here we are. So what I want to spend the bulk of my time briefing you on today is DHR's response to the COVID pandemic, because, well, first, of course, let me say welcome to all the commissioners, and thanks for your time. It's kind of strange to be in a large room, appropriately socially distanced from two other people and not have any of the commissioners in the room. So my list is off and my brain isn't working the way it normally does. But thank you all for being here. And Rick, congratulations again. I know we've talked since this happened, but on your appointment to the Advisory Council on Historic Preservation, that's really a monumental thing from Florida. The Advisory Council is a key player in the federal Section 106 process and develops and provides a great deal of guidance to all of the state historic preservation offices. And even more importantly, the federal agencies that actually conduct projects and that may affect historic properties. So we're tremendously excited for you. That's a huge thing, and I hope that you find your time on the ACHP engaging both professionally and personally. I know some of the members that are on there now, and it really is a bunch of great, wonderful, intelligent, talented people. So I'm very happy for you, and I'm very happy for us.
Thank you.
It's good for Florida.
Thanks.
Go
Thank
ahead.
you. There's two architects. There's one from California, West Coast, and now we can equalize the East Coast. And my goal is to represent our beautiful state. You know, that's really it. That first board meeting we had earlier this month on Zoom was amazing. I mean, just to hear, for example, about the Army's programming, they have thousands of housing units, affordable housing for soldiers, and what they're trying to do in terms of protecting, salvaging, reusing. And then, as always, the case came up of demolition and new infill design, which I call a double-edged sword, right? Because you demo our historic fabric, and then most of the new architecture today is not that good. You really start diluting quality places. So I'm going to use everything I've learned here in Florida and apply it as best as I can. So thank you again.
Thank you, Rick. I very much appreciate that, and I look forward to. I might have to figure out a way to start calling into those meetings, if it's even possible. I don't know. I've never tried. So thank you, commissioners, again for being here. I want to spend a few minutes talking about how DHR has responded to COVID, because like everyone else in the world and every other government agency in Florida, we've been deeply affected by the pandemic, and it's been an interesting time in trying to continue our operations as efficiently and wholly as we can in the midst of all this weirdness. First and probably foremost, we've largely transitioned to remote working and telework. At one point, I'm not sure of the exact number right now, but more than 75% of our staff were teleworking and working from home. And most of the people who chose not to were doing so, well, actually all of them were doing so voluntarily. Everyone that wanted to telework, we found a way to make it possible, technologically and in terms of their duties to do it. What's very telling about that, and I think it speaks to really the quality and dedication of the people that we have at DHR, is that in the Bureau of Historic Preservation, just to give one example, where all of our federal responsibilities are housed in terms of, speaking of ACHP, the Section 106 Compliance and Review Team, the National Register of Historic Places section, the Florida Master Site File, and so on. All of those crews are working at near 100% capacity, mostly remotely. And that's both a testament to the technology that we've been able to update and bring into play over the last number of years, really dating back to the 1990s, by being one of the first states to adopt a GIS system for our master site file. And we've tried as best we can to improve since then. So I'm really proud of what we've been able to accomplish in the midst of so many state historic preservation offices either working at half capacity or in some cases shutting down altogether. There obviously was a hiccup at the beginning, but then since then we've largely been working at 100%. The Bureau of Archaeological Research is also at 100% remote work. Almost. There are a few people, for example, our conservators who are coming into the office, or in their case, the lab. Primarily, those are related to reporting and writing tasks, as well as equipment and vessel maintenance. We are experiencing, of course, like everyone else, state-imposed travel restrictions, and those will remain in effect going forward. We don't have any expectation right now for when we will be able to restart archaeological field work. So currently, all field projects are on hold, which is unfortunate, but we do understand the need for it to be that way. But as a couple of our commissioners who are archaeologists can attest, there is never a lack of things to do outside of the field. So it's actually in some ways an interesting opportunity for our team to get caught up on some legacy projects and reports. Right now, the R.A. Gray building remains closed to the public, and they're closed by the order of the Department of Management Services. And as a result, the Museum of Florida History also remains closed. They're the museum that is actually present here in the R.A. Gray building. The Grove Museum, the Knott House Museum, and Mission San Luis all remain closed right now. But there are tentative plans in place to reopen the museum grounds, but not the museums themselves, not the indoor spaces, only the grounds in the near future. So stay tuned for more details on that. Of course, as that plan comes together and is announced, it'll roll out on social media and all of that. We actually don't have a firm date for that yet, but it should be hopefully within the next couple of weeks. And to kind of piggyback on that, there's been a very thoughtful and thorough response, I think, by us in DHR and in the Department of State as a whole to prepare for staff returning, to safely prep these sites for reopening, even on, a very small, socially distant scale. And, some staff have already chosen to return to the office, and I think a lot of us actually feel quite comfortable being here. It's certainly a whole lot safer than going to Publix right now. We've really done a lot around the building and at our sites to not just prepare for the public, but also to keep our employees safe. And I won't go too much into the weeds on that unless there are any questions, but I'm happy to discuss, what we've been able to do at the department and at the division to deal with questions of safety and to be accommodating to people that are of high risk in terms of the categories that are higher risk than others for side effects of COVID. But in general, just to reiterate, I'm really proud of our staff. It's been remarkable to pretty much keep going, even in a very unexpected kind of circumstance. So if there were any questions about whether or not we've been able to continue our duties during, what has really been largely a shutdown all around the world for a lot of people, we have, and we've been able to do it in what I think is a safe and accommodating way. In terms of staff updates, I have a couple. The big one is that, unfortunately, Dr. Mary Glowacki is no longer with the Division of Historical Resources. She was our Bureau Chief of Archaeological Research. Until we fill that position, which we do not have a time frame yet for, because in addition to travel restrictions, we are also largely under most circumstances, a state hiring freeze. Right now, I'm serving as interim state archaeologist. I want to reiterate that is interim state archaeologist. And that the program area supervisors, for example, underwater archaeology, curation and conservation, and public lands archaeology are for now reporting directly to me. But of course, we will be placing somebody in that position. Once I have a time frame or when we'll be able to move forward with hiring, in terms of, hiring freeze and issues like that, notwithstanding, of course, it'll be advertised and people will be made aware. The other staff update that I have for now is that, of course, our wonderful state folklorist, Amanda Hardiman, is now enjoying her duties up in Atlanta with the National Park Service. And we still are in need of a state folklorist, but unfortunately that's also been hobbled by the hiring freeze. So we don't have a state folklorist. Of course, we also didn't have a folk festival this year, but there are a number of things that we really do need a folklorist for. That have to do with our federal grant to fund that program, apprenticeships, and things like that. And of course the folk life survey. So hopefully we'll be able to within the next few months get that position filled as well. But as Mary and Almy pointed out, we are operating right now under a little bit of uncertainty in terms of when we can hire and when we'll be able to kind of return to normal. Brief legislative and budget update. This is very brief. I do not have an update. I hate to laugh, but it's true. The 2020-21 General Appropriations Act was passed during this year's legislative session, has not yet been signed, of course. So we're waiting for movement on that before we know exactly how next fiscal year is shaping up. In the interest of total transparency, I don't have any information on special sessions or, at least as far as I've been updated, no information has trickled down on budget expectations or anything like that. So I don't have any information related to that, but of course, we're all very interested to get whatever information and prepare for any reductions and appropriations that we might have. But right now, we're just planning on moving forward as normal with the next fiscal year until we're told otherwise. Alyssa probably has another staff update, so I'll leave that to her. And that one, of course, is good news. So I'll delay that and let Alyssa mention it. She probably knows what I'm talking about. With that, unless anybody has any questions, that concludes my update.
Thank you, Tim. Commissioners, is there a question for Tim?
Marion, can you hear me?
Yes, John Phelps.
This is John Phelps. I've actually heard the entire program, but I'm just now finally getting connected. I'm sorry for the delay.
We tried to keep you off, but didn't.
Well, I knew somebody must have been trying.
Yes. Well,
thank you.
Welcome.
Sorry for the interruption. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Steve Bertman, have you found us yet? At least, have you found your voice?
I saw Steve Bertman log on very briefly, and then he logged back off. So I'm not
We must have
certain
disappointed
what
him.
happened.
Okay, Steve, if you don't like us, we do understand. All right, then, Tim, we're going to move down now to Alyssa Lotane's report. Is that what you're saying? Or are you going to do the Bureau of Archaeological Research?
Well, the Bureau of Archaeological Research report, I pretty much gave it, to be honest with you. Because of the COVID situation, there's no ongoing field work at the moment, and really it's a lot of catching up on other reports and other research projects. So hopefully, good luck will prevail, and next quarter I'll have a more robust update for you, where all of our archaeologists will be back in the field. But we'll just have to wait and see.
Okay, well, I thank you. Okay, Alyssa Lotane, please.
Hi, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yes?
Hi, okay, just making sure. I'm working from home today, so glad to join you. First, I wanted to, again, thank everyone for the participation in the National Register meeting yesterday. I thought, under the circumstances, it went extremely well. We actually even had another SHPO's office that was listening in to see what a good job that we did. So thank you, everyone that was on that. On staffing, we do have one new employee in the National Register section. Annie Albert was able to join us right under the wire, so we were able to fill that position. I'm wondering what Tim is actually speaking of. I think it might be the fact that Rick Hilburn has decided not to retire in September and is going to be in our office for a little while longer. Is that what you were asking?
Yeah, that's it. I'm so happy about that I can barely contain myself. So
yeah,
yes, absolutely.
Yeah, that's really great news. So we've had a little trouble filling that other architectural position. So it's really great to know that we'll have Rick at least sometime beyond September. As Tim said earlier, we're really proud of the way that everyone has pivoted and been able to do the work from home at almost 100%. It's really been incredible to see, especially the compliance review section with the large volume, and they still get a lot of paper information. So they've been going to the office and just picking up things and dropping off. We do have, as of now, about 10 people, anywhere from 8 to 10 people on any given day in the office. And that's important because we are kind of confined up in that area. And the main announcement I have is Florida Main Street Conference. Well, actually now it's the Preservation on Main Street Conference that's scheduled in July. We have decided to do a virtual conference. So we're still working on how that's going to pan out and what platform we plan to use. But we are staying with the original dates of the conference, still partnering with the Florida Trust. And those dates are July 29th through 31st. And so we announced that on social media yesterday with the Florida Trust. And we will hope to see everyone in Newport Richey next year. And one good thing about that is that the Hacienda Hotel will likely be finished next year. We thought it would be done this year, and it's still underway. So that is one bright spot, that everyone will be able to see that property and have that be one of the places people are able to stay. And that's been a grant project that's been going on for many years. So I think that's it, unless anyone has any questions.
Thank you, Alyssa. Commissioners, do you have, any one of you have a question? Okay, then we'll move on to Angie Tomlinson for grants update.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Again, thank you for all bearing with us with our new world of remote meetings. Just on that as well, like Tim and Alyssa said, our staff and grant is all working remotely. One, except for one who was working remotely and he returned, I believe, last week voluntarily. And they're able to do that and at 100% capacity because now that we had shifted a few years ago to the online grant system, all the grant management is done through that system, so they can log on with their work computers from home. All of the open grants, they communicate through that system as well. And the application cycle that's currently open, that's all through that system. So they are able to work pretty much 100% full capacity from home using the online system and email, and also doing, phone calls and things like that when needed. So that's been really awesome as well. Talk about everyone's favorite topic, the budget. As Tim said, we don't know yet. The governor hasn't signed the budget, but I can tell you what was included at the end of the day regarding grants by the legislature. As the legislature passed it, the GAA includes for small matching full funding. We do have that recurring $1.5 million funding line for small grants, and the entire small matching funding list that was recommended fell actually just under that 1.5 million mark at 1.4 million. So it is currently fully funded with just the recurring line item, the list, and that would be 45 projects. And for special category grants, the legislature increased slightly over last year. They included 5.5 million and change for small special category projects, which would fund projects 1 through 19. Which last year they funded 18 projects, so they increased just a little bit, but pretty much on par with last year. They did also include in this budget 12 line item member projects for another 5.3 million. So that total special category 6 capital outlay project line is about 10 million, but half of that, a little over half of that, is for the recommended funding list that you all ranked and was forwarded to the legislature. So now, like Jim said, we're just going to wait and see on what happens. So hopefully, if anything gets vetoed, it'll be some of the line items, not hopefully, but it won't be our list that we ranked and took applications and reviewed on. And then just, I mentioned a minute ago, the application cycle is currently open. It opened on April 1st for fiscal 2021-22. It opened on April 1st and closes June 1st, which is next Monday, a few days from now. And as of this morning, there are 8 special category applications submitted and 9 small matching applications submitted, and there are well over 100 in preparing status. So as usually happens, all of them tend to come in, the vast majority come in the last few days. So we're expecting by 5 p.m. on Monday Eastern Time, June 1st, that we will have close to what we had last year, which was 64 submitted applications, of which 57 were determined eligible and reviewed by the Historical Commission. It may be a little lower than that, but I expect that today, over the weekend and Monday, we're going to get a significant amount of submissions based on how many are in preparing status. And then the last thing I wanted to remind everyone, since our last meeting regarding our review meeting scheduling, Sarah had sent out a doodle poll to try and determine the best dates for the most commissioners to meet. And those dates are now September 28th and 29th. That's a Monday and a Tuesday. Prior to the meeting, as we have every year for the past few years since the system came out, the grant system, we're going to be releasing those applications to you after they've been reviewed by staff, at least a month ahead of time. 4 weeks is always our goal, a month to give you time to review. And we'll also be doing a webinar or two to walk you through the system again, to refresh all of you. I think all of you have now used the system. We don't have any new commissioners this year, but everyone needs refreshers on that, even me, because I don't go look at applications constantly either. So look for that as well this summer. And right now, obviously, we don't know. There's still a lot of uncertainty, as Tim said. We're not sure how the meeting is going to be run this year. I don't know if we'll be able to do in person as we usually do, but September's a little bit away, so things may change by then. It may end up being a webinar, but we'll consult with you on that well before any decision is made on that. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Angie. Are there any questions by commissioners? Hearing none, I'm going to thank Angie and move to item 8, dates for upcoming meetings. And Angie just told us the 28th to the 29th, Monday and Tuesday in September for grant review. I am thinking that will probably be only online, question mark, question mark.
I mean, that's sort of our current thinking as well. Again, it's a ways away, but we're going to sort of shoot towards that unless we hear differently between now and then. And I mean, the thing about that as well, just to let you, in full disclosure, because the grant system is how you score and review, you're going to have, if we do it by all webinar, that is going to have to be open on a screen so that you can access the actual applications and score them. So it may require some coordination, individually among the commissioners with how they are going to set up that call. Like maybe they call in on a phone line, but then they have the application system up on a screen. I don't know if everyone has 2 screens. Some people do, some people don't. But you could also have things open on 2 screens. But we will figure that out as we get closer, for sure.
Thank you, Angie. Are there any comments or questions from commissioners? Hearing none, I'll move to other business. Is there any other business by commission members or staff?
Marion, this is Dr. Cliff Smith. I have one question here.
Okay.
We had dates for upcoming meetings. We sorted out the grants, but the dates for our next Florida Historic Commission meeting could be probably August 8th or something like that.
August 7th. August 7th, yes. The National Register meeting will be on August 6th, and then the FHC business meeting on the 7th. And then after that, the next business meeting will be on November 6th.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I was kind of forgetting these things. That's terrible. Okay. I will ask if there's any more questions under other business.
Well, this is Judy. I have an issue I'd like to bring up.
Can't understand you.
Sorry, can you hear me or not? How about you?
It's kind of echoey, Judy.
I haven't done a thing.
That's better.
Is that better?
Yes.
Okay. One of the things that troubled me about the Historical Commission, and this is really addressed to Tim, is that 8 of our 9 members' terms have expired. And that bothers me. To me, that sends a message that Secretary doesn't really care about appointing members or reappointing us. And I wondered what the scoop is, and I think that's unprofessional, and it troubles me. And I wondered how the rest of the commission feels about that, and what we might do about that. And Tim, do you know what the reason is?
Well, of course, the secretary doesn't appoint commissioners; the governor does. But that being said, no problem. That being said, we, meaning me as well as higher ups in department management, have repeatedly talked to the director of the governor's appointments office about appointments to the Florida Historical Commission.
Well, apparently that hasn't, since we've had no response, I wondered if the commission might write a letter of concern or state our concern, or doesn't it bother anybody but me, Marion?
This is Dr. Cliff Smith again. I'd like to support Dr. Benz's comments on the reappointment or new appointments, because I know with our National Review Board, we only have 3 members at this point, and it's always a real challenge to make sure we have a quorum.
Cliff, thank you. That is true. But our members can only be certain professionals, so the governor has to be sure and appoint those meeting those qualifications if it's to help us with the NR Review Board. And hopefully that can happen.
Yeah, I understand that, Marion, and this has been a concern because we're short on 2 appointments to that board, as I'm sure you're well aware. And unfortunately, this comes from the Historic Commission appointees as well.
Commissioners, if I might make a suggestion, I know that the division and the department can't actually submit names to the governor's appointments office to formally request or encourage appointment of particular individuals. However, individuals and commissioners can go either directly to the appointment. I'm simply stating a fact. I'm not recommending a course of action, to be clear. But individual commissioners or anyone wishing to serve on the commission can either get in touch with the appointments office or request an appointment via the online portal.
Thank you, Tim. And I have, over the years, recommended to 6 or 8 people to apply and told them how to reach the governor's appointment website. And several have applied but were not appointed, and this simply happens. And so we just, I think, individually need to reach out and encourage our peers and colleagues in preservation to apply. As Tim said, the division no longer can send a list and say these are qualified people who are interested.
If I can make one other.
Yes?
This is John Browning. One, for a point of information, the appointments office, I understand, are not going to be making any new appointments really anywhere unless it's an emergency, like they did on the Supreme Court, until after the virus situation dies. They basically, it's my understanding, closed down. They'll take names, but they're not going to do any appointments for a while.
Thank you, John. That's very helpful. Yes, Cliff.
Yeah, no, I was just going to respond to Tim's comment on the applying for the appointment. One of our things is if our term had expired, we were directed to reapply, which I've done, and just have not heard back anything since that application was submitted.
Yes, and for the reappointments, at least I think in our experience in the room, and of course, our experience with the FHC, I think probably, well, Alyssa may know better than any of us because she's been involved with the commission and the division the longest, but I do believe that any reappointment to the commission, just like an initial appointment, requires a formal letter and all that kind of stuff. So I think it's pretty much the same process, although it has happened in the past as well where commissioners have just been reappointed without reapplying. And I think that just depends on what the attitude of the administration and of the director of the appointments office and the governor's chief of staff feel about how to handle those reappointments. Since we haven't had any reappointments since Governor DeSantis took office, I don't have any insight on how the DeSantis administration wants to handle that. But what I can commit to y'all is, as I do usually about once a month, although not since the COVID pandemic has started, I talk to the appointments director just to remind her that we're still here. So I can certainly do that, although I will use discretion in doing that while the pandemic crisis is ongoing.
Thank you, Tim. I have a feeling that we're not going to be getting any new appointments for a while. There is so much going on, and I really appreciate John sharing that information with us. Doesn't mean people can't apply, but
Marion?
Chairman?
Yes.
Marion, this is Rick. Yes, I have been waiting for reappointment for the past 3 governors, so I wouldn't worry too much. They're not going to kick us off the board.
Correct. Correct.
Yes.
Was there another comment?
Yes, this is John Browning. I would say that if you have not been reappointed, you just continue to serve. That is the rule. So that not being appointed is almost, in the case of the commission, almost like being appointed. So I'm not sure that I would want to do a lot if you haven't been appointed and you've served for 2 more governors. You're in pretty good shape.
I think those are words of wisdom and truth.
They're behind. They've got to be behind 1,000 appointments now. They were behind. It's my understanding. This is just mine. I may be wrong, but they are behind a tremendous amount. Remember when the governor came in, he withdrew almost 200 appointments that Governor Scott had made, and those have never been resolved. They've never been reappointed or really completely unappointed. So all of those are still serving that didn't resign, and nobody's been appointed in their place. And then you have all these months of new appointments. So they're way behind, and they're going to take the real high-profile appointments first, is my understanding.
So if we were looking for a Supreme Court position, we might be further up the list.
Well, he just appointed some more judges last week, but he's appointed very few people, and they just don't want to deal with it until they get through the crisis. Then you could decide, and we can get a feel from the appointments office, Tim, later when it opens, and maybe get some names. I think a lot of it just don't have the names in there of people applying.
John, thank you for that comment. Just to follow up on that, I believe you're right. Those names don't go away. And so the last time I talked to Mackenzie Mahler, who's the appointments director, and I think she's still there. I don't think she's turned over yet.
She's still there.
I thought so. Yeah, she was very aware of our situation and all the nuance associated with it with regard to the National Register Review Board. Like has been said, she reminded me that there is, and this is a number of months ago now, certainly before COVID and all that started, but she reminded me how far behind they were in the appointments process. She also mentioned the appointments that were rescinded by Governor DeSantis, that were appointed by Governor Scott right at the end of his term. So, it does sound like they're just super far behind, but I started a habit of just kind of touching base with Mackenzie because she and I had to communicate on some other appointments that were sort of semi-related to the Historical Commission, but also to the Division of Cultural Affairs Commission. I was helping out a little bit with some meetings and things related to that. And I just kind of made it a habit to call her about every month and sort of fell out of the habit because we didn't see any movement on the Historical Commission. But I will, I'll just give her a ring or maybe shoot her an email and see if we can chat sometime in the next couple of weeks.
Thank you, Tim. Are there other comments or business to discuss? I don't hear any. would I hear a motion for adjournment if the commission is ready?
This is Kathy Spurgeon, and I move to adjourn the meeting.
Thank you, Kathy. A second, please.
Second, Dr. Smith.
Motion and second. All those in favor to adjourn, please say aye.
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 I'm
Opposed, likewise. And this meeting is adjourned. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Everybody
Thank you.
take care.
Thank you, everyone.